Starting, sweetie. I gave you fair warning.
I have a fire lit.
Hey, everybody.
Off the
Welcome
chain.
to episode number 52 of Whiskey, Wine, and Moonshine. Before we get started, I'd just like to say that today's podcast is brought to you by Audible.com. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at http, and you guys know that, www.audibletrial.com/whiskey wine moon. Over 150,000 titles to choose from your for your iPhone, Android, Kindle, or MP3 player. Ladies, how are you doing?
I lit a fire. It's burning right now.
What do you mean?
I'm
What kind of fire?
No, I'm burning like oil. And so the flame just like went up really high before we started.
Ladies and gentlemen, please understand that she had a solid 30 minutes to play around, to play Baby Firestarter.
Okay, I just blew it out like a candle. All right, we're good.
Anyway.
Shut up.
Anyway, Lady Buddha, how are you doing?
I'm great. I'm still enjoying this beautiful weather. It was supposed to rain this morning and it didn't.
Mm-hmm.
So I got some miles in. I've been running. So yeah, I'm good. And I got some wine. Woo, woo, woo.
What kind of wine?
I just got I actually have red Zinfandel, which is not at all like white Zin. But this is a Robert Mondavi. So we're still just trying out different things. Stuff that you can just get pretty easy. But it's pretty good.
Okay.
Yep. What about y'all?
So, Joe, is the fire over? Because
Yes, but now there's smoke.
Oh, goodness. Are you inside, first of all? Are you indoors?
I am indoors, and so a moment of full disclosure for the viewing audience from last week, where y'all know I was outside on my patio because I thought my air conditioner was broken.
Okay.
But it wasn't. I just didn't, when I turned it on, I didn't let it stay on long enough to kick in. So anyway, I stayed in a house for about a week and a half. But my air is on and working, so I am back indoors. And I have pink lemonade with sliced lemons, and I poured a little Pinot Grigio in. I don't know how it's going to taste yet, so we will see in just a second.
All right.
okay.
What about you, Miss Smart?
I am drinking the juice of the gods or goddesses. It is the Wegmans fruit punch. And everybody in and around the area know that brand of fruit punch is a thick, syrupy bit of goodness to almost rival that of Kool-Aid. With some vodka in it. It's awesome, and yeah. And let's see. So let's say hey to the chat people. We have Jeffrey. Hey. We have Hustle Crow. We have Soja. What is her screen name?
Rare Fine.
Rare Fine. Yes, we have. See, y'all confuse me when you log in.
I know. I wouldn't be able to
You
do
got
it.
your government. Trying to keep it secret. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Feel free to tweet us out and tell your friends and whatnot that we are on and quite popping. So wait, I have something to say, but before I say that, I do want to get our feedback out of the way. And not out of the way, but
I'm trying to say, we like the feedback.
Keep it feedback. Okay, so I'm going to read one, and I think the other ladies, or one or two of the other ladies, may have something else. So this comes from, well, I'll just read it, okay. What's up, never ever aging ladies of WWM? It's your boy, Phenom DeAndre, drops bombs on they moms if they spread like mayo black.
See.
What's up, Phenom?
Yeah, I don't, like, baby, your rap career might not be, I don't know. You're not dropping 50 bombs, is all I'm
He
saying.
just wrote the words. You were the one that was supposed to be rapping.
Right.
Listen. If he had a real flow.
I can hear him saying it too.
Anyway, on to paragraph 2. I recently listened to y'all's throwback episode about the real disgusting true life of R. Kelly and basically broke down why shame should be your first, middle, last, and nickname if you're out here supporting this fraud of a coon's tune. I like that coon's tune, yeah. Beautiful discourse, ladies. I thank you all for being three black sisters who can see the forest for the trees, or the Pedro for the R&B Ho Show, pedo for the R&B Ho Show, where he be clearly sharing with the public about those children he been turning out this season. Sadly, I come bearing fuck shit, and he offers us a link to a Lipstick Alley thread. That link is just one of the saddest conversations I've seen about R. Kelly, and the fact that people respond so equivocally to his pedophilia, while others compare it to Kanye being a douchebag or Barney being a racist, is just sigh.
Yeah, it's not even something that you compare.
Yeah.
Oh well, let the fight for educating these folks continue. Tell Lady Buddha she should start the Buddha Nuka hotline. I don't know what that means. I'm just saying, peace and hair grease, phenom, you ain't shit, nigga, I know. That would be the founder of Where's My 40 Acres podcast, and co-host of Eargasm audio review shows. Yeah, so friend of the show, Phenom Black, the whole crew over there. Get at them if you have not thus far. They'll make you like music that you never even heard of.
They will. I like that show.
Yes. Because half the time I don't know who they're talking about, but I listen to the whole show.
Yeah, they make it interesting.
Yeah.
I was trying to see if we had any iTunes feedback, but I can't pull up iTunes. We did have another Gmail from Trojan Scooter, and it said, "Hey ladies, how are you doing? I have a story to share. Earlier this week, my SO and I spent the afternoon together. While exiting her car, she was listening to one of your recent episodes. She told me she has become a big fan and listens each week. Sounds good, right? Nope, my SO told me I love Sojo. She is my girl." Shout out to Trojan Scooter's SO. He says, "I looked at her and said, we have a problem. I love me some Sojo and I'm not sharing. 45 seconds later, we laughed and continued listening. Keep up the good work and I will learn to share." So thank you to Trojan Scooter and Lady Trojan Scooter.
What a lovely, lovely message. Because here's the thing, though. I mean, you know, what he says is this, you know, people could get into a tip, you know.
Look, a couple that shares together, that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So just real quick before I go into the first thing, Jeffrey says we're looking good. Rare Frying says she changed her name. I don't know. She also said your hair is cute up like that. I agree with her.
I agree too.
She also said, check me out with my straight hair. Yeah, I didn't have time to curl it, so I just went with the flat iron one pass through. Something about did we hear, I think Jeffrey's asking, did we hear about Jay-Z and Beyonce and Solange? We are going to get to that. Brent is bigging up Wegmans. Wegmans is the truth and the light. Yeah, absolute truth and the light. At any rate, so the first thing I want to just address, Sean Aloysius Combs. Now, Shawnee, as I like to call him.
Oh, Lord.
You know, we all know he did the commencement speech over there at Howard, and we all know there was controversy when it was announced, and, you know, if you asked anybody who had any issue with it, why do you have any issue, what would they say? Oh, because he didn't graduate. And then when you hit them with a whole laundry list of other people who speak at commencements who didn't graduate, they had nothing, leading me to believe in most cases it was because they had drank the Kool-Aid that because he was a black man, he was a black man who doesn't speak or make himself palpable to white people, that he somehow was unacceptable. Well,
yeah, you had a good debate going on your Facebook page about that.
I did. It started out with the question, help me understand something. The same folks up in arms about Sean's speech said nothing about Oprah's worthiness to speak to Howard graduates. She is also a college dropout. The same folks who question whether Sean will speak in complete sentences applaud POTUS when he drops the G in front of certain audiences. So exactly what is wrong with Sean Combs or Puffy or Diddy speaking to the graduates? And yeah, it was a lengthy back and forth. Now that he has actually done his thing, and you know, he was well received by the audience, now the complaint is, oh, but then he has this misogynistic song with Rick Ross. And the song was recorded way, way before this speech, to which I say, I think he is a great example to the power of and, word to Lady Buddha. You can have an honorary or earn through academics, PhD, and produce ratchet music, and have a daddy who was less than savory, and own businesses, and have a team of babies.
Raise your children. You know what I'm saying? Have a good relationship with all of your children.
A team of kids outside of wedlock, and and admit that had you stayed at HU, you would have been better prepared for corporate America. Much like one can be a Howard student, know the word patriarchy and understand its influence, and dance to the misogynistic, homophobic music of the 90s, and pledge a sorority, and know how to shoot dice. Or better yet, you can be accomplished and not take yourself too seriously. I'm good with him not letting people tell him what things he can combine to be the Dr. Sean Combs he wants to be.
Amen.
So how was the speech? Because I know you and Buddha listened to it, but I didn't have a chance to. So tell me about it. Tell me everything. What did he say?
I liked it.
I liked it.
Buddha, I know you're going to give me some details. What were some things that what were your takeaways from his speech?
Well, you know what? The first takeaway that I took was, I mean, you could listen to the speech, but I watched it, and I was actually moved at different points because he seemed happy to be there, excited, surprised, disbelieving, proud, and he communicated all of that just by the way he would look at different times during the speech. Like, he seemed committed to really doing a good job while he was there, but also seemed humbled to be there. Like, do I really deserve to be here? Like, I think he did he just seemed very
Imagine what a surreal moment that is, though, especially coming from his background, to be standing at the podium addressing, because he's got to be flashing back to when he was on the yard, and
he talked about that.
Yeah.
He talked about from the very first day he went to the school, and he said, I got on campus, I made was it a right, Miss Smart, and another right?
A right. Well, he came from down the hill, so he made a left. Well,
he told us the direction.
On the yard, at least.
And said that one of the first things he did was went on the yard. And he said a lot of things. I mean, in the speech, he talked about the fact that Howard women are beautiful and brilliant, and he used that as a moment to segue to bring back our girls. He talked about the fact that one of the first things he did was go to the Founders Library and use the microfilm to look up his father, because his mother had told him that he had died in a car crash and he didn't believe it. So he found out that he had died as a result of a drug deal gone wrong.
Oh, wow.
And he said that, he was going to take up that same entrepreneurial spirit, but in an honest way, and kind of like build from that legacy or that idea of I can create and do things on my own. At the very beginning, he talked about the fact that he's rushed through a lot of life's moments, and he said, let me live in this moment and be present right now.
Oh, wow.
Time. Right. And I was like, well, let me start.
Is he a first-generation college student in his family? Yeah. Like, was he a first generation? So, that's another surreal moment for him. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a beautiful thing.
But he also pointed out, though, because a lot of people like to talk about him being a dropout, he named specific professors that he went to for advice on whether he should take the job. And they told him to take the job. And I think that's a piece that a lot of people somehow seem to miss. I wish he had touched upon the people from the Howard community that he hired. That whose careers he started off. He did talk about how it was his Howard family and friends who, let him sleep on the floor when he had no place to go. And those are the types of things that people who stand there and talk who didn't go to an HBCU, and I don't know, I've never heard anybody who went to a white school saying that, except for about their fraternity brothers and sorority sisters. They ain't saying it about Becky that they were so pressed to rub shoulders with when they turned in an application in 12th grade. They're not saying that about them. So I did like that he spoke in a way that only someone who had been there could speak.
It's true. He
and
talked about
involved himself in the experience. Just even talking about the HBCU experience, how we tend to support each other in each other's endeavors, because it just made me automatically, Buddha, think about Will and Rob and Rainforest Productions and how, Rattlers bonded together to make sure that they catapulted to success. Same thing with Puffy. Yeah, you can sleep on the floor while you're doing this. That's just what we did.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. I never heard anybody that attended a PWI even remotely have an experience like that.
Mm-hmm.
So, wow.
He kept talking about you will change the world. He kept saying that. That was one of his recurring themes, and he kept trying to get the graduates to believe in the power of themselves. He talked about the fact
said,
that
don't be another. I'm not expecting you to be another Oprah or me or so and so or so and so.
Right.
That's important. That's important.
He was like, be your best you.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that he kept emphasizing was the fact that you have to decide. So he kept saying, I made a decision to keep going. And when you have these failures and when you have setbacks, you have to decide. You have to be decisive. He kept talking about that. And he used this idea of the marathon that he trained for in not enough time.
Oh, yeah. Y'all remember that? I remember
that, he was like, it usually takes 6 months to train for a marathon. And I would say probably 4 to 6 since I have a marathoner around here. He says, it usually takes about, he said, 6 months to run a marathon, but he decided in 2 months that he was going to do it, and that he ended up raising $2 million. But that basically, at the beginning of the marathon, he was all hyped. He elbowed his way to the front. He was like, I'm standing beside my Kenyan brothers.
Take that.
And then he starts. And then he's running as fast as he can, and then it's just a quarter mile down, and 26 miles left to go.
Right.
But basically, at mile 10, the monkey is on his back, and he basically loses all the salt from his body, and he's in the street on his knees, and he can't go on anymore.
Wow.
And he talks about the fact that, at that moment, he was like, I had a decision to make. He was like, so what am I going to do now? Am I going to take a cab? Am I going to take the train? But that you had to dig down. That was
going to show me walking off in the other direction.
Right. And he was like his toenails were falling off, and I thought about what you were talking about a long time ago. I was like, Sergio knows about toenails falling off when you run.
I know that. My big toe, my left big toe.
Yeah, he said at the end his feet were bloody, but that through all that pain and the fact that he was in the middle of the street, he brought it back later at the end of the speech that was a moment where he had to really be clear about what his next step was going to do. And he said, what are you going to do now? I had 2 choices: sit in that failure and give up, because he's talking about when he lost a job, or make a decision to step out of the darkness. When you're in that darkness, you want to sit there and wait for the light to come. The only way out is to step forward, to face your fears, to become your own light. I had to make a decision. I had to find my inner power. We are all a work in progress, and one day you'll be sitting in the dark like I was, and you ask yourself, what am I going to do now? But in that moment, I want you to remember the power of you. And so, he kept going from there. That's kind of in the middle. We're not even at the end when he's talking about the power of you. And
but
so,
wait. Doesn't that go against this idea that a lot of people have, which is not my idea, but I've been told to do this, to quote unquote be still?
Yeah.
Wait. To just wait for something, not even prepare.
There's a difference between being still and doing nothing. We had that conversation. Yeah, we had a conversation about that.
You tell me to be still are good in doing nothing and wallowing in misery, hoping that the skies will open and Jesus comes down himself, knocks on their door, and brings them a sign.
But I just want to be clear that there is a distinct difference between being still and doing nothing. Being still can mean that you are absorbing what the universe is telling you, that you are, paying attention to signals to tell you which direction to go next, as opposed to doing nothing where you're sitting and waiting for life to happen to you.
Well, I think you need to put that on a T-shirt and get on the back of a convertible.
That's in the Karate Kid too. The remake of the Karate Kid. Jackie Chan. There is a difference between being still and doing nothing. Can I just say this?
Yeah.
I like when Puffy and Pharrell, and even this weekend Justin Timberlake with his little life class, and watching the rerun of Jay-Z's life class. I love when we get to listen to these people talk about their experiences and how they went from good to great. You know what I'm saying? Because none of them, I mean, they all knew they had something to share, but they had, like Puffy said, they had decisions to make.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so I like listening to them talk about that process, because there's so much to take away from that. So I just had to say that, but we can go on. I
guess my takeaway line from the whole thing, the thing that I guess will continue to resonate with me, is push your way to the front of the line.
Yeah.
One of my core beliefs, like, I have a belief that the rules, they exist for people, not necessarily me if I'm not advancing. Mm-hmm. So until you are at the top of the pile, no one's going to find you in a crowd, grab you, and walk you to the front.
That's exactly what he said. That's right.
You know, nobody is going to do that. Whether it is teaching, you how to navigate in different circles, whether it is, I don't know, women who want to get married, nobody's going to knock on your door and say, stranger man, stranger woman, can I marry you? Nobody is going to ace an interview for you. That's just not how it works. Now, once you get something, people will give you until they can't give any more, but that's only because they want something in return.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, we got some new people here. Hey, Queen, what's up, dude? Hustle said, and the same Bamas who will be standing in line at Puffy's homecoming party. Exactly.
The same folks are talking about him being there.
Eggs. And I will also say this. So I think it was 2 weeks ago when Ted, friend of the show, who wrote that ice cream song piece on NPR, when we talked about the numbers of people who have earned degrees in this country, and from a mathematics standpoint alone, from pure numbers, there are more people not like us than there are like us. And if he can get up there and show himself as having humble beginnings, being a regular dude, but doing these things, he is more inspirational than I might ever be.
Right.
More people. I might be inspirational to somebody, from Detroit, went to the same middle school, high school, whatever, those types of things. But on a general sense, yeah, his situation is far more relatable in this country we live in.
I like the fact, too, that he talked about you being your best you, because that's one of the things that kind of sets apart all of those, people that we were talking about, as far as, like, Puffy, Pharrell, and, all of that. They weren't trying to be carbon copies of anybody. Mm-hmm. Right. They were very innovative. They said, okay, I have this. This is what's different about me, and I'm going to sell myself to you, to the public, to anybody, and I'm not conforming. So that's one thing that I think they all had in common.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Queenine, H.U., you know.
You know what? We're going to call this the Smart episode, because as much as we talk about Rattler Pride and stuff, Miss Smart has been waiting to have an episode where it's nothing but bison.
Anyway, do you have anything else to add?
I do. I have a few things. Okay. The first thing, just kind of on that point about whether he's the right person, qualified or whatever, to speak at a graduation, really is commencement exercises. And we talk about the idea of commencing is beginning. Mm-hmm. So they're beginning this next stage of their life. And so he, having lived life, and he talked about this parallel between the fact that it took him 26 miles to run that marathon and 26 years to make it to that stage. Mm-hmm. And so, it's like he's reflecting on the decisions that he made, good, bad, and ugly, and the outcomes. And that's what you need to do as you begin, or understand as you begin the next stage of your life, is the fact that actions have consequences. Choices have consequences. Period. Mm-hmm. And so whether we have a degree or whether or not I ended up doing so well in my career that I get honored with a doctorate of humanities at the beginning of a commencement that I wasn't expecting, like he was like floored, that is the outcome of a series of decisions. But one of the things that he said, speaking to another point you all brought up, he says, for a lot of people, the distance between dreams and reality is intimidating. They get paralyzed, just like I was in that marathon. And you have to be honest with yourself. You have to tell yourself the truth. There's no National Guard. There's no aid team coming. You have to go out there and get it.
Mm-hmm.
That was one of the things that stood out. I mean, it's just that constant, it's back to you. You know, like Emerson says, self-reliance. It's going to be back to you. And even though he talked about God and Jesus and everything else, it's still back to the, are you just lying still or are you doing nothing?
Right.
You know, it's the and.
It's easier to lean on God, America, the prison industrial complex, racism, and all those things as reasons why you're not moving forward. It would just be like, it would be me like me saying it's raining outside, I can't go to work.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's raining, it's messed up, but I better either have an umbrella or find a piece of plastic to put over my head because I have a meeting at 9 o'clock in the morning, an important one.
My favorite phrase is life happens through you, not to you.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Real.
Yeah, absolutely. So in further, yeah, I think that at least these ladies, at least two of them, because Sojo hasn't watched it, appreciated Sean's speech and what he gave, but it also signaled it was a challenge to other HBCUs. Y'all got to bring it now, and it was a younger commencement speech.
It was. He said y'all need to evolve. He gave a shout out to the class of 1964 for their 50th anniversary and was like, all right, y'all know that tonight y'all got to turn up.
And the interim president, we were at one of the same parties together for homecoming. So the university is trying to. I don't even know if they're consciously trying to. And there are a lot of people who question him and his ability, and it is based solely on age. Because when I asked them, well, do you know of anything that he has done at the university, any policies that have failed? Do you know that he doesn't have any financial management skills? Does he not have? And they had nothing. Well, he's just so young, and he's so, shut the fuck up.
But you know what about that? You know, Blue and I talked about this recently about, I talked to him about youth as part of a leadership strategy and a leadership style, and what traits can you bring from youth? And you think about, it was because we heard kids outside playing, and one of them was like, next time we play the game, we're changing the rules. And we were like laughing about the fact that they had made a decision, collected some data, and said it was going to be more fun.
Reevaluated.
It was going to be a better experience if the next time around we made some tweaks. And I said a lot of people who are older and stuck in a non-youthful leadership style, they can't adapt. They can't change. And he talked about the fact that some people always say, well, if I know now what if I knew then what I know now, if I could go back. And we're both saying, well, what can you bring from that period forward? How can you bring some of those youthful things? So adaptability, flexibility, fearlessness, joy, vigor. How can you bring that forward with the wisdom that you have now?
But then I don't think they look at it that way. Actually, one of my good friends, we were out on Friday celebrating not Mother's Day. It's the Friday before Mother's Day, people. And she had gone through this whole thing at her job where they had did this whole, I don't know whether it was a training or what, about different generations and expectations. And, their most senior leadership, because she's on the, I guess, leadership team, but most senior leadership are baby boomers, and they define themselves by their jobs. They see no reason to change. And if you define yourself by your job and the way things have been done for the last 30 years, you don't want to hear what anybody young, they're being disrespectful because they're not following along the way you had to follow along or the way you chose to follow along. So it's very hard for older generations to accept that, hey, you know what? Tablets exist. Like a great example she said was that one of the younger team members was like, I don't get why you guys think Summer Fridays is a big deal. got VPN. We can work from home any day. Like, why do y'all care where I am when I'm getting this work done? Which was a valid point. And the old people thought that she was being disrespectful.
Yeah, because they're used to that routine, that 9 to 5, clock in, clock out, work overtime, that sort of thing. We actually touched on that in episode 43, that miscommunications, what was it, miscommunications, millennials and meltdowns, or, whatever. But we did talk about that because the millennials can be frightening to an older generation because they don't define themselves by their jobs. They define themselves by, and this could be a good or a bad thing, how they feel about themselves, how they feel about what they're doing, and is what they're doing fulfilling. And that's something that the older generations never did. They never thought about whether or not their work was fulfilling.
You know what, though? I think that the younger generations, particularly the women, are getting to a point where they don't immediately define themselves by spouse and or children.
Yeah, that's definitely there, because we talked about that too. That was an article about millennial women not defining themselves by their family roles anymore. So, yeah.
Y'all reminded me of this article about otherhood.
Woohoo! Bring it. Oh, by the way, Jeffrey, HU is Howard University.
HU?
And
also Hampton University, but they don't like to hear that.
Shut up. It is Howard University. Don't go out. Sojo's gonna have you get your behind beat in the streets if you go out there talking about some HU with Hampton.
Jeffrey gonna go to DC talking about where's Hampton?
Right. Also, Rare Find said she's been turning on the OWN network on Sundays because she enjoys the Soul Sunday and Masterclass shows that air. I don't ever get to do
Soul
this.
Sunday on OWN is everything. Like, that is straight up for your spirit. Yeah, I agree.
I haven't seen them yet, but I've seen the tweets all the time, like the
all day long. I'm talking about the master classes, the inspiration, all of that, all day long on Sundays.
So, Lady Buddha, tell us about your article about otherhood.
Otherhood. Well, really, it's an infographic that was in Forbes. And they were talking about Mother's Day, and it said, amid the Mother's Day marketing blitz, a look at an ignored demographic gold mine, the others. And so they talk about motherhood and otherhood, and they're getting it from the work of Melanie Notkin, who wrote a book called Otherhood, Modern Women Finding a New Kind of Happiness. And, I don't really like this idea of otherhood because that kind of pits motherhood against not being
Yes.
But they talked about the fact that 38% of women in childbearing age don't have children either by choice or by chance. That 59% are single and 17.5% identify as LGBTQ, but that 75% have some college education or more, that they have a lot of friends or followers on social media, but that they have career success and love. And so it says, in essence, they are rewriting the fairy tale. And it says, and for the record, the otherhood might not have kids, but that doesn't mean they don't love them. For 80% of them, children play an active role in their lives. So they have nieces or nephews, or they care for the children of their friends. Some of them want kids, some of them don't want kids, and some of them aren't sure. But that 80% of women who don't have children, even though they're of childbearing age, said that they could lead a happy life without kids. And they just, this whole infographic just really talks about the fact that, while we're marketing to mothers, and there's all these women who, are being ignored. So it's talking about it from a capitalist perspective. But I know that the three of us are of childbearing age, even if it may be toward the edge. But I think we're all well-adjusted and happy, and so whether it's by choice or by chance, I think we're doing pretty good. So I just wanted us to just talk a little bit about, whether we call it otherhood or just being women, because that's what it is. What do y'all think about some of that?
I think that in an effort to become a more politically correct society, we tend to tiptoe around and try to make everybody feel included by infringing on celebratory activities for a certain group of people. It's like, if we're celebrating mothers on Mother's Day, I don't feel slighted because I don't have children. You know what I'm saying? Like, even if my mother would not have been the greatest mother, which she was, shout out to Mama Sojo, I still would not be angry at the people who were honoring their mothers or stepmothers or aunts who, they call mother or, whatever on that day. I can find another day to celebrate and honor myself. So, I mean, it's kind of like what you said in the idea of otherhood it seems like it pits itself against motherhood, which is something that I don't want any parts of, but I do understand that, there are a lot of fulfilled women who don't have children. And I think some of them internalize the fact that mothers are being celebrated, so they feel like they have to have something too. And you don't have to have that. You can let mothers have their thing. Right. So,
and that is why we choose Friday to celebrate our freedom. And we choose that. Listen. And it was a last minute thing because we don't have kids, we kind of can do that. Say, I don't know, noonish, hey, let's hit this happy hour at 3:30.
But it gets to me because I see, like, instead of just saying Happy Mother's Day now, people have to write paragraphs to wish people Happy Mother's Day. Like, it's like, happy this kind of mother, but not that kind of mother. Is it a father? It's like, now your Mother's Day greeting.
Well, that's because they're allowing people who at their core are not happy, and people who are at their core are not happy can find something to be mad about. So while they're being mad, people who write these long messages are allowing those unhappy people to dictate how they celebrate.
Yeah. I mean, and to be fair, like the woman who did the research, I mean, this was a book and someone else just wrote a post because you know how capitalism works. Mm-hmm. It was going to be timely to talk about this book during Mother's Day. But there is kind of an interesting place though, that group who cares for children but aren't officially mothers who might kind of.
One. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was one. You guys know that I had custody of a student of mine throughout her high school time. I was her auntie, but I was her maternal figure. That was really the only person, in her life during that time, and I acted as a surrogate mother for her. It didn't mean that I needed a holiday or even like because she did wish me Happy Mother's Day and that sort of thing, and I appreciated it, but it wasn't something. Yeah, I mean, it's beautiful, but that wasn't something that if somebody did not like on Mother's Day, I wasn't like, well, you didn't recognize the aunties or the people out there taking care of other people's kids. I mean, I didn't need that. You know what I'm saying? So
some people, if they're looking for something to be upset about. Last weekend it's Mother's Day. Next weekend it'll be, I don't know. That Scandal doesn't come on until the fall.
Well, Father's Day is coming up, so it'll be
right. Father's Day. You know how Father's Day is. But I will say something that's interesting that we are going to have to reconsider now, because I know this episode is talking about, looking towards the future, because we have so many non-traditional families. For example, because I was reading an article where some schools are now deciding not to celebrate Mother's Day or Father's Day because it's getting kind of confusing. But there's some schools that are trying to figure out, for example, if you have a lesbian couple that's raising, a child, and it's Mother's Day, of course, you could say, Happy Mother's Day to both of them. Yes, but then when it's Father's Day, then is that child excluded from the activity on Father's Day? Or if it's Father's Day, or if it's Mother's Day and you have, two men raising a child, are they excluded on Mother's Day? So they're trying to navigate, and I do think it's a valid thing that you have to think about, because when you're dealing with children, especially in a classroom setting, you don't want them to be the ones that aren't having anything to do. So what activities would you do, to make sure that they're...
Let's make cards for Mother's Day and the people we love. Let's make cards for Father's Day and the people we love. And
and it could be just that simple. I don't understand
why they make it into this big to do. Like, and furthermore, I don't know whether you're going to get into this, but like, do lesbian couples get mad if their children don't give them Father's Day gifts? Because I know a few lesbian couples, and that never seems to come up.
I don't think so. I mean,
strangely enough, because I know several lesbian couples, I know several, dual male couples. that never seems to come up with them, but it seems to always be one or two that are in the news. And then all of a sudden it becomes this huge issue that they all face. But when I'm talking to actual people about it, they have the same look of confusion that I do. So I wonder if it's more so the squeaky wheel getting.
Well, yeah, it's what's going to get the clicks. But one group of people that I would like to point out, though, because I worked with some of these kids. You know, you have kids who are in foster care, and who may not actually love the people who are taking care of them, or who are, you know, have all kinds of other non-traditional and non-healthy home lives who you have to also think about that. So it might not be as simple as, you know, make a card for the people you love, because it may be a really small number. You know, so you just kind of, you know, it's just kind of being careful about it, just kind of contextualizing things in a way that's going to be healthy and helpful.
And I think in a classroom setting too, you know which kids have, for example, if you know you have a kid that's in a foster home or whatever, there's a way to talk to that child about what they can do for that activity. That's something that you can definitely do. You don't just have that person sitting there like, everybody's got a box of crayons and construction paper except me, you know. I mean, I think it's really stupid if they think that people would actually, you know, or it's really stupid if it's going on where you would actually have a child sitting in that setting. That says more about you than it does, you know, about society as a whole.
That you're Rare Find said that there's a month dedicated to foster parents, and I think it's May, but I'm not sure, so I'm just like on a couple of sites looking for it right now.
Okay.
But to your point, Sojo, a lot of this is because adults don't want to make those decisions in the school setting, and I don't know whether it's because they lack common sense or there's a fear that they will be chastised if they make the wrong decision.
Well, that right there is real talk.
You're absolutely right, and I think that's why some schools have decided instead of trying to figure that out, they just won't do it all together. They won't do it at all. So when I was reading that article and seeing that, because it was a lesbian couple trying to find a school for their child to go to, and they said they just so happened to have chosen a school that didn't celebrate Mother's Day because of that wasn't what they were looking for, but they found more schools were starting to do that because they were afraid of what if we make the wrong decision and offend everybody, or offend one person. So instead of having that publicity, let's not do anything at all.
Well, they could, you know, there's no Christmas, it's winter break.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And, so
there's no Halloween anymore because Halloween has been worshiping the devil, you know, so they can't do Halloween anymore.
But you know, they still, you know, there's still activities that are still done.
Harvest. The Harvest Carnival.
Yeah. So you still have nods to those things. But, you know, the flip side is, while I don't think that, you know, I'm kind of in the middle in terms of I'm not really into celebrating a day just because someone else said it's important. I've kind of always been that way, although I am kind of shifting because, you know, life happens. However,
look at her softening up. Aww.
That's because, let me shut up.
I've gone all ways on all these things, and so
you see her cut her eyes to the side though. Did you eat that?
Life happens at any rate, and so you think, you know, you kind of just decide where you are at a given time. At any rate, while I don't think that you should always make it a goal to celebrate all of the days that capitalism marks and that people think are important, I also don't think you should hide from those days because they are still happening in the real world. So I think that something should happen in a school to just acknowledge that this is happening in the world. People are going to say Happy Mother's Day, and, you know, whether it's a terrible situation at home and there is no mother, or there are, you know, whatever the situation is, I just think that that's part of being at school, you know, is learning how to navigate the things that happen in society. And so without shoving things down people's throats, kids, we can figure out how to still help them know what is going on in the world, and to acknowledge it if they want, celebrate it if they want, ignore it if they want, but to know that it exists.
And to just, piggyback on what you're saying too about it being like a capitalistic holiday, or whatever. Also, that you can make your own celebrations. It's okay to tailor your celebrations to your lifestyle. Like Mother's Day it's really an American holiday, but other cultures and other countries do things to honor mothers or mother figures in so many different ways that are totally beyond things that we would even think as far as buying flowers or candy or something like that. So you could actually look and say, well, I want to celebrate this day, and do your own thing, or have your children come up with, different things. There are ways to do things. We don't always have to make everything so dramatic and controversial.
Can I say one thing though?
Mm-hmm.
The way not to do it is don't send mass texts.
Okay. I think I do a mass text right now.
Okay. Because I got a mass text for Mother's Day, and I'm like, please get off of my phone.
No, did y'all see Leonard Brothers' tweet that he got a Mother's Day text?
Okay, that's the way not to do it. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just had to say that. Don't do that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny. Y'all funny. I couldn't get my phone. I couldn't get it together quick enough to send your belated Mother's Day text. But wait, it'll come when you least expect it. Mm-hmm.
Let it come on Father's Day.
Right.
It'd be just as appropriate then.
I'm gonna start trolling people.
Yep.
I'm really gonna start trolling. Like dudes on Mother's Day and be like Happy Mother's Day, and on Father's Day be like,
right. Say something like, although you don't have breast and couldn't breastfeed, your paycheck went to all the formula. Happy Mother's Day.
I wanted to honor you.
I can't stand either of y'all right now.
Jeffrey says shout out to Mama Sojo, and Rare Find said I think that the foster parents month is this month because they donated a basket to be raffled off at an annual banquet. And Jeffrey also said he didn't take his mom out, but he'll probably take her out on Friday. So those are some new comments that I am getting through. What did you guys think about not so much mothers, but, well, maybe, yeah, they are mothers, Solange and Beyonce.
Oh, hell.
No.
We're just going to hop right into that.
For the last 12 minutes.
I mean, we didn't have a bridge.
Kobe, no, I don't got no time for no bridge.
You know what? I saw the cutest picture of Blue and B and whatever Solange's son is. And so how did you think about you could have done it like
Oh, wait, real quick before we get into that, let me just tell what Rare Find's baby did for her.
I just saw that.
I gotta brag real quick. My daughter gave me a heart-shaped dish with positive affirmations written on pieces of construction paper. I put them on my nightstand so I can read them when I start to feel out of touch with the world, which is great because that says her daughter knows what positivity is.
Right. Oh, that is so sweet.
Yeah.
That's sweet.
And it's well thought out. That wasn't just oh crap, it's Mother's Day.
I know. Just we're all gonna do the same thing, whatever the same thing is.
Good job, little Rare Find.
EOODJOB.
Let that baby stay up an extra 15 minutes on Saturday.
Right.
15 minutes.
15 minutes of fame. All right.
So, Battle Royale in La Elevation.
I did see it. I did watch.
Did you watch the minute footage or did you watch the 3 minute?
I watched the 3. I didn't know there was a minute. Oh, I watched the 3, whatever, and then I watched them at the end when they came out into the cars. I did watch. And the only thing I can say, since it's sans context and sound, is that it was really interesting.
That's it.
I mean, it was fascinating to watch because you saw all kinds of interesting body language things happening between everyone. And I saw the best tweet that I ended up retweeting, and I'll have to figure out whose tweet it was, who basically said, and even though I have not been Solange at one point, but he said, I've been Jay-Z, Beyonce, Solange, the bodyguard, and the elevator camera at different points in my life. And I was like, whoa, And
it's funny that he tweets that because you can see it from all their perspectives. When you're watching that video, you really do start to put yourself in Beyonce's shoes. What would I do if I were B and this was happening? Or what if I do if I was Solange and I'm pissed off? Or what would I do if I was Julius and had to hold my boss's sister back from hitting her husband and make sure that we don't die in this elevator? Like, I mean, there's so many different twists and turns to that footage that
everybody was calm except Solange, but I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know the context.
Well, which makes me think or wonder, were they almost expecting it, or has that behavior happened before to where they pretty much knew they needed to, any quick movement could have escalated the situation, so they did everything that they needed to, that they knew to do to kind of diffuse it in that moment? Or it could have just been like, damn, we're in an elevator and the cable could snap, so she's making all these sudden moves, so let's everybody else be still and balance out the elevator car. I don't know.
I don't think Solange was out of control, because if she were out of control, she would have cut a fool before she got into that elevator. She knew when to act the fool and to what degree. She knew exactly.
I agree. And she adjusted her wig before she stepped out of the elevator. So
I missed that.
If you act a fool in the store and your mama say, no, when we get to that car, I'm going to tell your little ass up. That's exactly what she did. She got into the elevator.
My mama never told me that, by the way.
My mama did.
This good. Right.
I'll get it. I'm trolling. Go ahead.
Anyway, so that says, you know, that she wasn't out of control in a way that, you know, we got to feel sorry for her and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, but the only thing I took away from it was that we are shocked that it happened. And we're shocked that it happened because these people have demonstrated some level of discretion until this point. Okay?
Well, here's the thing, too, is that a lot of what's coming out now is people speculating on whether or not Solange has a mental health issue. The only thing that is confirmed is that Solange has ADHD. She herself has talked about her getting a diagnosis for that, rejecting the diagnosis, and then getting a second opinion, her medication, so forth and so on. So we know that she has ADHD. But people have said back in 2013 when she canceled her London tour that it was because she had been diagnosed with depression and bipolar disorder. So some people are saying, was that basically the manic part of a bipolar episode? Like you're saying, Smart, though, she was so controlled in her rage that I didn't feel like the behavior at that moment was a part of the mania. I felt like she was angry at whatever Jay-Z had done in that moment, and she lashed out. But she knew enough to get herself together. My mother says, gather yourself before you walk out of that elevator door. So I don't think it was a part of the, you know, bipolar, if that is in fact what she has.
Well, again, I just like the fact that we are all shocked, because it's none of our business what those people do ever. It's just not, and I wish we would focus more on the fact that we are shocked and that these are people who have, as I said earlier, have demonstrated some level of discretion throughout their very public lives. And if more people would do that, then my Facebook, I wouldn't have to go, when I do get on Facebook, and hide all of these statuses. I don't need to know that your ex-wife is, I don't know, an egg donor, and I've seen that several times. I don't need to see that. That's none of my business, because she didn't rape you. She didn't force you to marry her. She didn't force you to have no babies. So why are you trying to drag her? And a lot of people talk about it from the perspective of women dragging men, their children's fathers, and all this type of stuff. Discretion. General public, we don't need to know that.
We are in a society now that thinks that sharing and oversharing is normal now. Like, you know, it's almost, we were talking about unicorns and mythological creatures. The Knowles Carters are now unicorns because of their discretion, when that used to be the norm. Like Diana Ross tried to run somebody, I think it was a Marvelette, over in a car after a show at one point, but we didn't find that out till 30 years later in the tell-all book, not, you know, when it happened at that time, because they were always very discreet about the crap that happened behind the scenes. But now it's like in the Kardashian society, that tape would have been given to TMZ by Kris Jenner. You know what I'm saying? And then talked about it. If that had been Khloe kicking at Kanye in an elevator, they would have done a confession video, you know what I'm saying, for their show.
With what's the one that was married to Lamar Odom? She had issues with what's his name? Was she the older sister's kid's father? Yeah. So, you know, we do get to see that. Though I do wonder, because they didn't have social media and that wasn't the mindset back then. So could we marry the discretion mindset with social media? And I say yes, because we don't go out putting all of our business on the interwebs.
No. And I think that, but the thing was, back in those times, and I'm speaking specifically about the Motown era, because they were taught, because actually Beyonce was molded in the Motown
way, yes,
model, right, as far as her image is concerned. They taught discretion. Like they said, you know, you keep these parts of your life private. You know, there's only so much that the public should know about you, because that allure of mystery is what keeps people wanting to know more. That's what they taught them, so that's what they did. So if you ask, can we marry those two concepts? Definitely. I mean, you can see people who have interesting social media accounts and you have no idea who they're dating, or you have no idea, you know, even if they have children
like that.
You know, I mean, there's several people that do it successfully. It's just so normalized now for people to put their every thought on the internet. So I think it can happen. I just think it's something that we need to, I don't not know if praise is the thing, but just point out that it can be done.
Well, and it's not, and it goes in two directions, because we have some people who put their own oversharing, but then we have other people who blast people for gain. So they leak the tapes, like even this tape right here looks like it was somebody's phone capturing a video screen of something to go release it to somewhere else. So it wasn't like they were like, let me show you what I'm doing. You know, someone else felt like they could get something by releasing it. So we have kind of that competing ideology of what can I do to be famous, whether I'm, you know, getting back at somebody. We have revenge porn, and we have, you know, we have all these other ways of putting people on blast as a form of communication now too.
You know what's interesting is that there's always been a market for that, though, because they've always shopped around sensationalized sites. I think somebody put in the chat, Rarefine put in the chat about the Inquirer and all of that. And I remember back in the day, the Hollywood, I forget what they called it in the 50s. It was the Hollywood something that was basically the tabloid of the time. There was always a market of getting in people's business. It's just that during that time, you had editors and owners that knew when things went too far and shut some stories down. And you also didn't have, like how the paparazzi is allowed to come up and just snap pictures in newborn babies' faces where flashes are like, that's accepted now. When back then that wasn't necessarily the case. Or, yeah, I'm gonna get $1 million for taking this cell phone footage on my phone. You know, those sorts of things are now, you know, I don't know, prodded now when they weren't back then. Yeah, people always love gossip, but it's just this insatiable desire.
I think too, people weren't necessarily so ready to document gossip. Gossip was kept in places like the reception hall at church, the hair salon, those types of places. And I will say this, so even today there are some corners of discretion, because if we all remember, the Real Housewives of DC only had one season. And they only had one season because most of the ladies would not cut a monkey on television. They would not do it. They would not say anything off kilter, really. It was just that one crazy broad and her right, yes. That one. But on every other show, people are competing to see who can be the most ratchet. Let me just real quickly read a couple of comments in the chat. Did y'all see folks retweeting when Solange said she wanted to kill B's boyfriend back in the day? I did not see that.
I didn't.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but I'm not surprised because folks can't, do a lot of things, but they can do some internet research. Boy, I tell you, they'll find it. Yeah, so you said Refine mentioned the Enquirer and Star were the source that disclosed unsavory behaviors of celebrities before social media became popular. Yes, but they only had so many inches of print space. So there was only, a certain level of celeb could I guess get in there.
And it was harder to document. You had to be invested.
Right, exactly, because you wanted to be a real reporter and get real information.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of his screen name.
That's Trojan.
Okay. As a 30-year-old guy with no kids, I get asked, why don't you have kids? I tell them that I like being a caregiver and role model for kids without the lifelong responsibilities of being a parent. You are so nice, honey, because mind your business seems to be the shortest and most efficient answer I could think of. Rare Fine said, that's great that you've made a positive position in society, to him. And also Rare Fine said that she didn't expect a hidden camera to be placed in an elevator. Well, Solange didn't expect a hidden camera to be in an elevator. And then Queenine says, why shouldn't she expect a camera in an elevator? Most elevators have cameras, even where you work. This is true.
Well,
and there's an entire show on HBO, I think it's HBO or Showtime, where basically it was showing people having sex in the elevators, not knowing that the elevator was filming them having sex. So yeah, err on the side of caution.
Look, not knowing, scare quotes.
Right.
Okay.
Exactly. So I think, ladies, at this time we may want to sort of start winding this bad boy down.
Right. I agree, but I want to say one more thing before we kind of close out. Jay-Z's reaction to Solange, because we didn't touch on that. And I think that's something that, because we were talking about the impact on society and the future, and I think that his lack of reacting to Solange's behavior towards him is something that not only men can take away from, but women as well, because people always talk about, well, if somebody hits you, you have to hit them back, or your primal instinct kicks in and you have to do X, Y, and Z. And I'm almost happy that this footage leaked. Not for Solange, because I hate seeing her in that way, but you can also use that as a teachable moment for reality TV when you see people fighting when a drink is thrown or somebody getting in your face and you automatically push. You can make a decision in that moment not to react violently to someone who is being aggressive towards you. It definitely is possible. So I just wanted to get that out there.
Well, it's possible, and it should be the most likely scenario. He has something to lose, and often you find that people who don't have anything to lose have just an empty bucket of fucks. Just nothing is there. They're not putting any on layaway.
But so do arrogant people. But people who do have things to lose and they're so arrogant that they think they can't lose them still will have a reaction like that. So I do think that it's all about your decisions. It goes back to Puff, just bringing it full circle. It's all about the decisions that you make. What are you going to do in this moment that could impact the rest of your life? Because if Jay-Z had chosen to lay one finger on that girl, the trajectory of his path from that point on would have been changed forever. And I think it's actually may go in a more positive direction because people were like, wow, look at his response. So, but again, we don't know what happened. We don't know what happened before that, but I'm just saying that moment, you know.
She really couldn't physically hurt him. She might have scratched him. She couldn't get close enough to really give a punch to the eye, so she couldn't really blacken his eye. It was
connected with his balls.
It was like a puppy coming after you. Like,
But even still, some people would have used that as an excuse.
Right. It would have been. That's what it would have been. It would have been an excuse. It wouldn't have. She had no justification as far as we could see, and he still, even if she acted a complete monkey, he didn't have any justification. But again, the consequences for him are far greater than the consequences she's going to suffer, because he's probably not going to press charges. He's probably, if the DA wanted to press any charges, he probably wouldn't cooperate. I mean, you know, there's all this stuff. The consequences, I mean, honestly, as an aside, the only place where I'm really willing to lay hands is in my home, because there are certain laws that cover that. But in general, in the street, you know how many things I would like to do, but not for the fear of getting punched in the freaking throat and going to jail, where they will not give me, I don't know, organic coconut oil.
But people praise people for the reaction, regardless of the consequences. Oh yeah, they went to jail. They have a mugshot, but they still praise them for that reaction in that moment. Girl, I understand that you hit her back, or dude, I understand that you hit her, because she shouldn't have been doing X, Y, and Z. So I definitely want people to take away from that there is a different choice to make.
And I said the same thing when Portia, you know, grabbed Kenya by the hair. I totally understand why she did it, and you know what, she reached her limit. But you know, you can reach your limit, and then you can find the name of her fake ass boyfriend and the name of his wife and publish that shit on the interwebs. That's what you can do. Yep. You don't have to end up with a mugshot. So. Anyway, I think it's time for us to wind down. I didn't mention this at the start of the show, but anyone who is listening right now, we are on iTunes. We are on TuneIn. Give us 5-star feedback on both iTunes and Stitcher. We have been playing around in and out of the #1 spot for our category on Podomatic. So if you guys would not mind, and by not mind, I'm giving you a strict directive, to share our podcast on your Facebook pages and Twitter feeds, and with the coworkers that you actually do like. You know, feel free, again, share. Give us that feedback on iTunes and Stitcher. And with that, ladies, is there anyone that you would like to give cheers to? Any closing thoughts?
Buddha, you got someone?
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to Dr. Combs. Yeah, I know some people kind of shade honorary doctorates, and having an earned doctorate, I don't think you should shade them, because they're recognized for different things and for different reasons and for contributions in your field. And you know, congratulations to him. And you know, I just want to say one more thing that he said, which is be fearless, be decisive. When you fail, remember the power of you and get back up on your feet. Yeah. Cheers.
So, Joe?
I still want to give my cheers to the same person that I gave my cheers last week, and that's Lisa Williams, who is the founder for Circle of Friends Living Water for Girls. And basically, that is a transition home for girls in the Atlanta area who have been rescued from sex trafficking. And so they are actually looking for donations now, because that's how they are funded, and they do education programs, and it's also a residential home, so they do need money. Their website is www.cofcl.org, and again, that is Circle of Friends Living Water for Girls. But special cheers to Lisa Williams, who's the founder.
Okay, and 2 things from me. I'd like to remind you guys to go over to Audible and get in on our trial. And just in case you missed the address at the beginning, it's www.audibletrial.com/Whiskey Wine Moon. With regard to cheers, I would like to give cheers, and we may have mentioned her before on the show, to Maxine Powell. For those who don't know.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Yeah. And are maybe Google challenged. She is the woman who taught the charm classes to all of the big groups over at Motown. One of the things, and I am reading this, she said, do not confuse me with your mother. She told the Supremes, the Temptations, the Marvelettes, Smokey Robinsons and the Miracles, and other luminaries to be. She's stuck with you. I'm not. You know,
Amen.
she taught
I
them.
would say y'all go to YouTube and YouTube her speeches and videos and stuff. That is, she was a delight.
Yeah, she did die last year. So that is, and I kind of, I wish we had more women like her.
Like her, yeah, or more women who did classes like her.
Right, exactly.
Well, let's do some.
I think we should.
We should.
I mean, like, that's both done.
Right.
Okay, so that's right, ladies and gentlemen. Be on the lookout for the three of us teaching people how to act. And by act, I mean, I like the word behave, how to behave
yeah.
in various settings. So, ladies, if you guys, if you're looking for us, you can find us on the Twitter at Whiskey Wine Moon. You can find me on the Twitter at think_p_smart. And ladies, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter at ND Collier, that's COLLIER, or on the web at www.cocostudio.com, COCO Studio, singular, cocostudio.com, and it's National Women's Health Week. I forgot to say that. So happy National Women's Health Week. All right. So, Joe?
You can find me on Twitter at SOJOXOXO, that's SojoXOXO, and you can find me on my website, which is www.feminyin, that's FEMINYIN.com.
Cheers, and shout out to all the unicorns out there.
Smart. You said yourself?
I said mine already. She wasn't listening.
My bad. All right.
All right, bye.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers.